The sky above Donetsk was supposed to be quiet. That was the assumption, a deadly one. Su-34 bombers roared low over the treetops, confident in their air superiority, flanked by cutting-edge jamming tech and escorted by interceptors. But the Russians never saw it coming. 6 minutes after takeoff, the sky lit up with fire. A HIMARS strike, precise, invisible, and devastating, shredded through the perimeter defenses and homed in on the airfield. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a reckoning. This is the story of the day the hunters became prey. Captain Orlov, 36, was one of the most experienced Su-34 pilots in the Russian Air Force. A veteran of the Syrian campaign, he'd flown hundreds of sorties without so much as a scratch on his aircraft. In Donetsk, he was stationed at a forward-operating airfield known as Echo Ridge, a strategic launch point for precision bombing runs across eastern Ukraine. Orlov trusted his aircraft like a second skin. The Su-34, with its twin-seat layout and long-range strike capacity, was a flying fortress, fast, sleek, and deadly. The enemy couldn't get close to it, or so they believed. On the morning of May 12, intelligence had flagged a suspicious lull in Ukrainian artillery fire. That usually meant one thing: repositioning. A new offensive. Command ordered an immediate sortie. Orlov and his weapons officer, Pavel, geared up, unaware they were walking into a carefully laid trap. Meanwhile, 80 kilometers west, hidden under camouflage netting and buried in cold mud, a Ukrainian HIMARS, high-mobility artillery rocket system, battery sat silent, its six-pack of GPS-guided rockets already pre-programmed. The mission: neutralize Echo Ridge. Not just to stop the bombing, but to send a message. At 8:43, Su-34s screamed into the sky, Orlov in lead one, followed by two others. Below them, the HIMARS crew finished their final targeting calculations. Their recon drone had already painted the runway, hangars, fuel depots, and mobile radar units. "On my mark," said the Ukrainian battery commander, a former IT engineer named Artem. He wore a tattered jacket with a patched-up Ukrainian flag sewn on the shoulder. His eyes never left the tablet screen. Back at Echo Ridge, a low-level officer noticed something strange, an unusual drop in satellite signal strength. Jamming? No. It was the opposite. Silence. The kind that settles in just before a thunderclap. 8:49. HIMARS launch. 6 rockets tore into the sky. The roar of ignition was heard for miles, but by the time anyone registered the sound, they were already mid-flight, invisible, untouchable, and locked on. In the air, Orlov's cockpit lit up with alerts. A burst of static hissed through his headset. "Pavel, confirm radar." Orlov barked. "Negative lock." "Wait. Sir, I'm getting—" Then the shockwave hit. A HIMARS rocket slammed into the fuel depot near the runway. A second tore through the hangar where a fourth Su-34 was being refueled. Another rocket detonated at the command center, burying officers under concrete and flame. Echo Ridge was dying. But that wasn't the worst part. A split second later, Pavel looked over at Orlov and whispered, "They know we're in the air." The HIMARS strike had done more than destroy the airfield. It had disoriented the pilots mid-flight. With Echo Ridge's control tower gone and their encrypted comms scrambled, the trio of Su-34s were now blind in hostile airspace. And the trap wasn't finished. Ukrainian forces had launched a secondary ambush, mobile anti-air batteries repositioned just east of Kramatorsk. As the Su-34s banked west, a Buk missile system fired. "Missile lock." 6 o'clock, screamed Pavel. Orlov flared hard, jinking the aircraft into a corkscrew dive. One of the Su-34s wasn't so lucky. A fiery streak tore its tail off mid-roll. The pilot didn't eject in time. Below them, the smoking ruins of Echo Ridge faded behind black plumes. They were cut off. But Orlov wasn't about to go down without a fight. He punched the afterburners and made a beeline for low altitude, hugging the terrain to confuse radar. If they could reach friendly space, they might survive. "Nav systems down," Pavel said. "We'll have to dead reckon." They followed the tree line for 12 minutes, dodging tracer fire, hugging cloud cover. They passed the wreckage of one of their own drones, its charred body proof of how deep the ambush went. At 9:17, a Ukrainian MiG-29 appeared on their left, not by chance. It had been vectored directly onto them by ground radar. "You ready to dance?" Orlov muttered. He flipped the SU-34's mode to air-to-air, a last resort for a bomber. Missiles flew. The dogfight began. The MiG was faster, lighter. Orlov had training and rage. He lured the MiG into a steep climb, then reversed into a sudden dive. At the perfect moment, Pavel launched a short-range missile. Direct hit. The MiG spiraled in flames. But their fuel was gone. Orlov turned the bomber toward a stretch of forest near Belgorod. With a sputtering engine and barely any glide range, they crash-landed in the trees. Orlov and Pavel crawled from the wreckage, bruised but breathing. A Russian recon team would find them 6 hours later. Their SU-34 was gone. Echo Ridge was gone. In Moscow, the news was buried beneath official denials and propaganda. But in military briefings behind closed doors, the phrase HIMARS airfield kill shot was repeated like a curse. The HIMARS team that executed the strike became local legends. Artem, the commander, was awarded the Order of Courage by the President of Ukraine. Their operation, codenamed Silent Thunder, marked the first successful decapitation strike on a Russian forward airbase since the start of the war. For Orlov, survival wasn't a victory. The Air Force grounded him temporarily, citing trauma, but the truth was more political. He had seen the future of warfare, and it terrified the generals. In a war where artillery could be moved by pickup trucks and launched with smartphone coordinates, even the might of a SU-34 was vulnerable. He kept a photograph of Pavel in the hospital ward, the man who saved his life twice, once by launching that missile and again by dragging him from the flaming fuselage. On his release, Orlov gave an anonymous interview to an underground journalist. His final words were chilling. "We thought we ruled the sky. But war isn't about who flies higher. It's about who sees first." 2 weeks later, satellite images showed another HIMARS battery moving south, toward Crimea. The Russians scrambled jets again. But this time, they weren't the hunters. This time, every engine ignition was shadowed by the fear of silence.